By stroke of luck, I got into the procurement technology space in the late 90s. I worked for a company in Pittsburgh, and I'll show you the slide in a second on the office high-rise. We were very proud as a $5 million company at the time to put our name on the building. That was back when the dot-com boom was a very different era. But like all the tech companies at the time, the status symbol was the Aeron share. And what I learned very quickly at FreeMarkets in my tenure was that Aeron shares can cause a lot of damage besides being good for the back. So let's talk about that. So I got to FreeMarkets out of consulting, and FreeMarkets was one of the original strategic sourcing companies. If you remember it, it competed against Abbreviate from Kearney, and we introduced the notion of reverse auctions into industrial procurement, castings, forgings, printed circuit boards, and the like. When I joined, I had the fortunate or unfortunate job of becoming kind of a staff leader for the executives. I was in corporate development, and I learned very quickly in that role that I also had to become a psychologist. FreeMarkets had one of the most successful IPOs in history and one of the biggest implosions in history as well. When we went public, our trailing revenue, I think, was $6 million, and we were valued at over $5 billion. But very quickly, not so long after, we had some peers, some competitors, Reba, I2, Manugistics, Commerce One. And while our stock price started its downward trend, those guys were going up. And I dealt with this situation with, let's say, a couple of founders and executives who were quite upset by that. And I should frame the stage. Two founders of FreeMarkets came from McKinsey, much smarter than me, but they built a good business and had egos, not necessarily a bad thing. And the executive who came in, Dave McCormick, would later lead the biggest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater. So these were smart people. And the executive who threw the chair will go unnamed. But there was an executive who was really, really upset that our stock kept dropping, and our peers, who were just what we would learn in a second, playing the PR Newswire game, had stocks going up. So we were winning a lot of business at FreeMarkets. We had a lot of big companies. We also had one dump us because we wouldn't give them warrants in our business. That was GM. But at the time, again, there was a chair throwing episode. It may have looked something like this. So I set out to be a psychologist, and this gets me to data. So one night, late night, this was back in the days of Access and PowerPoint and Excel, before we could ask ChatGPT to do all of our work. I had this hypothesis, and my hypothesis was that there was nothing to the increase in stock price, and we were talking billions in market cap with Ariba, especially, who would go on to acquire FreeMarkets eventually. I didn't think there was that much to it. I had this hypothesis that their press releases, and we were winning customers, so were they, but they press released every customer in every marketplace tied directly to their stock price increase. And FreeMarkets, being kind of, an intellectual company, thought press releases were too low for us. So I plotted on a slide, I did a quick regression, and I saw, oh my gosh, the correlation between putting out press releases and stock price was literally like 0.99. It was there. So I came in with this chart the next day, again, underslept, typical of those years. And I told the team, guys, don't throw chairs anymore. I figured it out. We need to hire a PR person and do press releases. And sure enough, we did. And we slowed the slide, right? It came crashing down to earth.